Hi, I'm James Lamont, fellow at the Vadine Center for Rural Economic Development at the University of Minnesota Crookston. Today, we're going to talk about the accelerating Midwestern exodus, especially in farming communities as well as rural areas, and what those declines, or how those declines rather, impact families as well as communities and states across the region. So basically, since the late 19th century, we've been seeing a gradual decline in more or less younger people leaving farming areas for better opportunities. This is due to a variety of factors. First and foremost, many farms have automated, obviously, and have increased mechanization and other technologies, thereby reducing the need for certain amounts of people to work on farming or working on farms. And then simultaneous to that, we've seen a growth toward corporate farming, which also more or less reduces the amount of people needed to administratively oversee certain areas of farming. And so this has been something that's been happening for generations and is likely something to continue for generations. But how does it impact the region? And so first and foremost, what we've seen is farming efficiency increase, but we've also seen land loss. And for example, we've lost just in the last decade or so about 140 million acres, or in the past 4 decades rather, about 140 million acres, as well as 400,000 family farms, which is pretty significant. Simultaneous to that, that impact on rural communities is holistic, right? So when people leave, there's a drain on tax bases for schools, healthcare, markets that have nothing to do with farming, and that inability to pay for certain critical infrastructure, coupled with sort of the death spiral of communities, forces an amalgamation of community services within counties or regions, and frankly, it accelerates driving people away because they don't have quite the amenities or the infrastructure they need to continue living in that community. In addition to that, economic disparities are created more or less as a result of this. And what I mean by that is, families who remain in farming continue to struggle because of just constantly fluctuating commodity prices, and there are very few years that happen where you don't see an increase in operational costs. I mean, inputs have been going crazy for the last decade or so, just as a result of inflation, COVID, supply and demand, just rapid switches, for equipment, and or switches in terms of supply versus demand for you name the input. And so it leaves some of the smaller farmers just really in difficult positions. And couple that with the migration to urban areas and the capital flight that exists with that, and you continue to exacerbate that socioeconomic divide. And then on top of this, we're looking at long-term rural land use challenges. And so as we transition from some of the smaller farming to large-scale operations, whether it be corporate or just amalgamated operations that occur as a result of co-ops or whatever the case is, it's also changing land use practices, contributing to environmental challenges. Couple that in some states with some of the more restrictive environmental laws, and you're just seeing a major problem exist across farming communities. So anyway, this is an update from something I did several years ago, but we're continuing to see this acceleration as well as these economic disparities. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.